Welcome to Birth Words. This is episode number 75. Today I'm talking with Meredith Ashton Cohen, certified birth doula and women's health coach, about the menstrual cycle and how using the metaphor of the changing seasons can help you live your best life throughout all phases of your menstrual cycle.
Welcome to Birth Words. Words are powerful. What are you doing with yours? In this podcast, birth doula and applied linguistics scholar Sarah Pixton invites you to be intentional, reflective, and empowering with your language as we come together to honor those who give birth. The work of Birth Words is to elevate the language surrounding pregnancy, birth, and the postpartum period. Nothing in this podcast should be taken as medical advice.
Meredith Ashton Cohen is a certified holistic birth doula and women's health coach who supports families in natural birth and understanding the menstrual cycle for overall health and productivity in every area of life. She started studying the menstrual cycle when she lost hers in college. It was a rock-bottom place for her, so she dug in deep. Meredith discovered how to use food as medicine to heal her symptoms and bring her hormones and period back into regular cycling. She also discovered how syncing with the menstrual cycle increases productivity, leadership, creativity, and inspiration in every area of her life. She now teaches women and teens how to access this power of the menstrual cycle for themselves. Meredith, welcome to the Birth Words podcast. Thank you so much for chatting with me today.
I am so happy to be here, Sarah. Thank you.
So I read your bio to our listeners. They know this awesome work you've been doing recently. I'm just going to briefly share how we connected. Meredith and I are both doulas in Utah, and we have served together on the Utah Doula Association board. And I have been really impressed watching Meredith's journey as she is finding this really niche place where you are just zoning in, honing in on the importance of really understanding your menstrual cycle and how it can help you to live your very best life. So I was really excited to reach out to you and get your thoughts on this and have you share some of the ways that you talk about these things and do that here on this platform. So thank you for joining me.
I'm so excited. This is my favorite thing to talk about in the world.
Awesome. That's so awesome. And we need so many of you. We need people like you who are just like, yes, please, can I talk about periods with you? It's my favorite.
Yes.
Okay, so one of the things that I really like about the content you've been putting out recently is that you use these seasonal metaphors to talk about the menstrual cycle. So I want you to just walk us through a typical menstrual cycle and what the seasonal metaphor is to help us understand that phase in the menstrual cycle and how understanding it with that season can help us live our best life during that phase.
Very good. Okay, so the 4 seasons is something that we know about and that we can connect. And so we can kind of bring our cycle knowledge into something that already has a context for us. And so I love using the seasons for that reason, because it helps us connect with our cycle and maybe something that we don't know into a context that we do know. So we'll start with springtime. And this is your follicular phase, which follows directly after your menstrual phase. And this is when your hormones are starting, your estrogen is starting to increase during this phase. And with your estrogen increasing, your energy is increasing. And if you think about springtime, this is the time of new growth. And so our brains, throughout our cycle, our brains change about 25%.
Wow.
So I know. It's amazing to know that because we aren't crazy people. Our hormones have a literal impact on the wiring in our brains. And so we're literally wired for different activities and we have different strengths during each season. So also as you think of the seasons, it's like what do I enjoy about springtime? And it's different than what I enjoy about wintertime and fall and summer, and so preparing and like enjoying the season for what it offers can also help us enjoy each season of our cycle.
I really love that, because how often do we just try to push through and be like, it doesn't matter, I'm just going to do all the things I normally do at wherever we are in our cycles. I love that you're like, let's think about what you love about each season and how that can be your focus of your energy during that phase. I love it.
Yes. And it's good too, because it's like, oh, I know when the snow is coming, and so I'm going to pull out my winter clothes. And so when I go out in the snow, I have an enjoyable experience because I have my coat, I have my boots, and I'm prepared. And I'm not walking out there in my shorts and flip-flops being like, I am freezing cold. But it's like, because that would be really silly, because you aren't prepared for what that season has to offer. And so as we prepare for each season, then we can also enjoy each season for what it offers. Okay, so springtime is about new growth. Our estrogen is starting to climb, and so is our energy. So this is the perfect time to experiment and try new things, to brainstorm, to plan, kind of dream big. As you're mapping out the next month of what projects you want to accomplish. And, just that creative brainstorming time. And your moods are, your energy is starting to climb, and typically women feel pretty good during this phase, mood-wise, that their mood is stable, that they have energy in this phase. So then springtime turns into summertime, and this is your ovulation phase of your cycle. And summertime, if you think about what you do in summertime, it's a very social time, backyard barbecues, boating days on the lake, evenings spent with friends. And this is when you are the most communicative and have that extra firing in your brain to communicate and articulate things really well. And this is kind of like so your estrogen and your testosterone peak during this phase. And so you have lots of energy and you're magnetic, and it's kind of like you're on your A game, which makes sense because biologically you're attracting a mate. And so most women feel at their very best when they're ovulating and during this phase. And estrogen kind of acts as like a social lubricant, in that like things can just roll off your back really easily when your estrogen is in the picture. And so it's kind of like less things bother you. You're on your A game. You communicate really well. And if you're supporting yourself with nourishing foods, you feel good in your body. You have energy. This is the time to really go intense with your workouts, because you have that energy to build the lean muscle and burn fat and have that be successful and feel good at the same time. So during this phase, if you have presentations to give, interviews, asking for a raise, family councils, hard conversations, like schedule them during your ovulatory phase of your cycle, because you'll be the most wired and like successful doing that. Then we go into fall. So after you ovulate, estrogen declines and progesterone takes the center stage. And during your luteal fall phase is about 2 weeks in length. So the first week, you're kind of coming off the high of ovulation and your energy is still pretty high. But your brain, with the progesterone increasing, has more attention to detail and focus to complete projects. And so as you have planned projects in your springtime and talked about them with your friends in your summertime, then when you come to fall, it's time to kind of bring them to completion. And some projects obviously are going to be more than a month's time or one cycle, but there are some things and tasks that you will be able to wrap up within a month. And like, this is your phase to get it done, move through, like clean out your whole closet, do a big grocery shop run, do a big meal planning, for the next month, but kind of like bigger projects that you can like start and finish. Because this is the phase when you just have attention to detail, you have the focus to be able to finish things. And then in the second week, this is when your progesterone and estrogen are just starting to decline, and they're on a steady decline until they reach their lowest level, which triggers your bleed and your menstrual phase. Mm-hmm. And so during that decline, that second week, the week right before your period, this is when, kind of the most troublesome time of your cycle is, because this is when PMS symptoms will show up if your hormones are imbalanced. If your hormones are balanced, then your PMS symptoms will not show up. So there is a lot of things that we can do with our diet and our lifestyle that can balance our hormones. And when we have balanced hormones, like, we don't have PMS. Like, PMS is totally optional. It's not part of the gig. However, it's very, very common. So it feels like a necessary part of the period and the cycle experience, but it doesn't have to be. Yeah. Which is pretty like earth-shattering to think about. Right. It's like, wait a second.
What are the kinds of things that we can do? You mentioned diet and lifestyle things. I feel like you've talked quite a bit about the lifestyle, and obviously we have one more season to go. But can you talk a little bit about diet in each of the three that you've touched on so far?
Yeah. So in the springtime, that's your follicular phase. This is when really light foods are the best. Your metabolism is lower, so you need like less calories than you do during the second half of your cycle after you ovulate. So light chicken and eggs and fresh vegetables that are like steamed, sauteed, lightly cooked, pressed salads, but lighter foods, and not as not as much calories. As you go into summer, you focus on fiber, still lots of vegetables. You have a little bit more grains in here, like corn and quinoa. And then as you go into fall, after you ovulate during the second half of your cycle, your metabolism is higher. And so you do need more calories, but you need more nutrient-dense foods as well. So during the fall phase, this is when like root vegetables, brown rice, those slow-burning carbohydrates that are going to sustain you and balance your blood sugar. And as you balance your blood sugar, then that helps to stabilize your mood, which can be very helpful during this phase right before you bleed, because your hormones are declining. And so getting those nutrients from your food can help stabilize those things as you are heading toward your bleed. And then in your menstrual phase, so this is like your winter time. And this is when your hormones are at their lowest levels. And so this is the time, and think of warming foods. So soups, stews, bone broth is really good during this time. Any sea vegetables to replenish your iron and your zinc that you're losing in your blood. And red protein, red meat, just really nourishing warm foods during this phase. And so in your winter time, this is your menstrual phase when your hormones are the lowest. This is also the time for you to rest and reflect And during this phase, the two sides of our brain are the most open to receive inspiration about our lives. So this is the time when we can ask more of those cosmic, deeper questions about our life. Are we on track? Am I still happy in this job? What happened this last month? What do I want to change going forward into this next month? It can really be that reset, reflection that fuels you moving forward in the path that you want to for the next month. And month over month, it's a way to keep your life like on track in the way that you want it to go.
I really like that. I like that. I feel like sometimes we just feel almost like victims to our hormones, and people will just be like, oh, hormones are so crazy, right? But I love how you have this map that's helping us to understand what our hormones are doing and how we can work with them instead of unintentionally working against them. And that knowledge, of course, is power, right? To be able to live your best life and be on top of this and be productive and proactive rather than feeling like you're just being steamrolled by your hormones every month, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And we have like knowing that we have different strengths because of our hormone fluctuations, and we can choose to fight against that. And that's when there's more trouble, or we can choose to go with it and like capitalize on it, right. And use it to our advantage because it is like, so it's kind of like accepting that we're cyclical beings and that's how we're designed to be. And that provides us a lot of strength. But it also takes us embracing the strengths of each season and recognizing that we aren't going to stay in one season all month long, that we are cyclical. But as we use that, then we do like become more powerful.
Yeah, I really I'm looking at the menstrual cycle map that I got by following you on Instagram and clicking on the link, which let's tell everybody how they can do that. So your Instagram is at Salubrious Woman, right?
Yes.
And it's SALUBRIOUS. Did I spell salubrious right?
Yes, you did. And salubrious means health giving. So as women, we give the gift of health to ourselves, and it starts with our menstrual cycle.
Awesome. Love it. So Salubrious Woman, follow you on Instagram, and then you have in your bio a link to be able to get on your email list, which she sends some really fabulous emails with more information about all these things. And then you can get this access to this graphic that she just has like a pie, right? Like a circle cut into 4 pieces.
Yeah, just like a simple map. Yeah, of your cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can follow, the link is meredithashton.com/cycle map.
Perfect. You can go straight to it that way. So I'm looking at it right now, and I love how you have 2 keywords for each season. So you say spring, the follicular phase, is the prepare and plant season. And I feel like if I can wrap my mind around that metaphor of like, okay, it's spring. I love spring. What do I do in spring? I prepare for new growth and I plant, and then I can apply that to my movement and my time. And then moving into summer with ovulation, you say communication and collaboration. And I like how you drew that parallel to like, yeah, summertime is backyard barbecue time. It's social time. Think of that when you think of your ovulatory phase. And then we've got fall, you say, is work and harvest season. Mm-hmm. We're hunkering down and getting things done, and then kind of getting ready for menstruation to begin. And then winter menstruation is rest and reflect, which is so critical. If we all will just build in a few days out of every month to take some time to reflect. That's something I talk about a lot on this podcast, is being reflective about our language and our lives and our choices. And our hormone cycles give us this really natural time to do that.
Yeah.
During menstruation. So,
I mean, it's a beautiful, like, built-in time to pause and refuel. And like the menstrual time is really when we tank up and refuel our vehicle. to go for the next month. So if we skimp on this, we will run out of gas. So our energy levels won't be the same if we haven't taken that time during our bleed.
Yeah, we can just accept that as a gift from our bodies to be able to slow down and reflect. Right?
Yes, accept it as a gift from our bodies. Exactly.
So I love these metaphors that you talk about with all the seasons. Are there any other metaphors or figurative language that you like to use as you conceptualize the menstrual cycle?
Yes, I like, and it's on the cycle map of thinking about a garden. You know, in the springtime, you do prepare and you plan and you plant. And then in the summertime, you are starting to get that harvest and starting to like reap the benefits of that. Like things are starting to grow. And then in the fall, like you're finishing your harvest and then you're going to prepare your garden to rest. And then during the winter time, it's rejuvenating the soil to get ready to have the plants grow again when it comes springtime and through the next cycle. And so it would be silly to, you know, in Utah where we do have 4 seasons that are pretty clear, to think of your vegetables in full bloom and growth and harvest during the winter time. Like that just doesn't make sense. And our bodies are really similar. And so expecting our bodies to be doing or capable of certain things during different phases, if you can go back to the seasons or back to the metaphor of a garden and thinking like, oh, this season is not the time for me to be in full bloom or to be, you know, like having my vegetables at their peak of their season because I'm in my winter. And that's when it's time to rest and for the soil to rejuvenate.
I really like that. I love gardening, so that's a metaphor I really
that's
appreciate.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
If you had to choose just one word to describe the menstrual cycle, what word would you choose?
Oh my gosh. Magical. Magical. Wow. Yes. And the reason is it's like a regenerating fountain, you know, which cycles, you know, it's like it gives so much when I give to it, you know, and I'm going with the cycle, then it returns so much back into my life. And so it is that like very reciprocal, but it truly is magical.
Cool. Well, thank you for sharing some of the magic of the menstrual cycle with us today.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah.
If you're interested in sharing your ideas or experiences on the podcast, go to birthwords.com. If you're liking what you hear, please leave a review on your podcast app. For more resources about language for a better birth, subscribe to the monthly newsletter at birthwords.com and follow Birthwords on Instagram and Facebook.